My daughter is my pride and my joy. She's 8 years old, and from the very moment she was born, she was like an angel sent down to earth, and it was my job to water and nurture her into adulthood. We have this tradition where every night just before bedtime, I'll read her a few pages out of her favorite book. Watching my little girl so entranced, so encapsulated in these stories, makes my heart glow with a warm light that blankets my entire being. On this particular night, we were reading chapter 12 of Charlotte's Web, and Charlotte had just rounded up all of the barnyard animals. This is the point in the story where she starts spinning messages into her webs, like some pig or terrific. All those subliminal messages to keep the farmer from slaughtering Wilbur. That night, my daughter had quite the little meltdown, pouting how afraid she was that Wilbur would go on to be sold and butchered. "Come on, Pumpkin," I plead. "Do you really think that Charlotte would just let that happen? Look, she's leaving notes so the farmer knows Wilbur isn't just some pig." "Leaving notes like the man in your closet?" she asked. I was dumbfounded. I didn't know what to say to this. "A man in my closet? What?" "Yeah," I said. "Just like the man in my closet." Finishing up, I closed the book and began to tuck my daughter into bed, giving her a gentle kiss on the forehead and brushing her golden blonde hair back behind her ear. "All right, sweetie, you have sweet dreams to me, okay? You too, Daddy," she said. Lying in bed that night, I just couldn't shake the unease. Man in my closet? What kind of kid fear makes her think that there's something in my closet? I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I checked. Actually, ever so cautiously, I made my way over to the closet, before sliding the panel open to reveal nothing but darkness. Yanking the pull string and flooding the closet with light, everything seemed to be in order. Shoes, shirts, pants, and a crumpled sticky note tucked to the edge of the drywall. "Some pig," scribbled in red ink. I did everything I could to rationalize it. Maybe my daughter left it, maybe it's some poorly made grocery list, I don't know. No, this couldn't be rationalized. It was too perfectly coincidental. I grabbed a bat and I made my rounds. "Hello?" I shouted. "If there's anyone in here, you better come out now, 'cause I'm calling the cops." I went through every room in my house and didn't even find a hint of a person. All that yelling had awoken my daughter, who was now standing at my side. "What happened, Daddy?" she grumbled, wiping the sleep from her eyes. "Nothing, honey. Let's get back to bed. Come on, it's late." "Did you find the man, Daddy?" I paused. "What man? What man are you talking about, Roxy? Tell me now," I said sternly. "The man from your closet, Daddy. I told you. Don't you remember?" "There's no one in my closet, Roxy. I checked already. I just thought I heard something in the garage." "So you didn't find the note?" My blood ran cold. "How do you know about a note, baby girl?" I asked playfully to mask the fear. "He told me he left you one. He said it was like from the story." Sitting my daughter down on her bed, very seriously, I pulled the crumpled sticky note from my pocket. "Are you talking about this note, sweetheart?" I asked her. "Yes. It's just like this from the story, Dad. Look, some pig." She laughed, clapping like she just saw a magic trick. Needless to say, we ended up camping out in the car for the remainder of that night. The next morning, I sent Roxy off to school and began my extensive searching of the house. I'm talking looking for hollows in the drywall, shining flashlights in the insulation-filled attic. Heck, I'm even checking under the bathroom sink. Finding nothing and feeling defeated, I plopped down on the couch for some television when the thought hit me. Wait, Roxy said he wanted to leave one for me. Could this mean that the man has already left some for Roxy? I rushed to her room and began rummaging, emptying the toy bin, searching the desk and drawer. Not a note to be found. However, glancing at her bookshelf, I noticed something that I hadn't noticed before. A thin, aged-looking composite notebook with cracks branching across its spine in yellow pages. It wasn't the notebook that caught my attention, though. It was the flap of a bright yellow sticky note that stuck out ever so slightly from between the pages. Opening it up, what I found horrified me. Each page was completely covered in sticky notes from top to bottom, left to right, everywhere. Like a scrapbook of notes that, according to my daughter, came from a man in my closet. None of them were particularly malicious. In fact, it was as though they were written by a dog who had just learned to communicate. "Hello," one read. "Roxy," read another. "Waiting, window, daddy." Just single-word phrases that looked to be written by someone who was mentally challenged. Who would I even turn to in this situation? What would the police say if I brought them this and told them that my daughter and I have been sleeping in the car because of it? They'd take Roxy away for sure. That's what they'd do. So I just waited. I waited until Roxy got home, and I confronted her about it. "Roxy, sweetie, I found this notebook in your room today. Is there anything that you want to tell me about it?" "Yes, those are the notes, Dad. I told you so many times," she said, annoyed after a long day of second grade, I guess. "Yes, I know that, dear, but where did they come from? How did that man give you these?" "He always leaves them for me after our stories, Dad. It's like his thing." "Leaves them where?" She stared at me blankly. "Ugh. Where have I said he lives this whole time?" she snarked, rolling her eyes. "He's in your closet." "Roxanne Edwards, is that any way to speak to your father?" I snapped. "Go to your room right now and fix that attitude that you've picked up today." "Well, sorry," she croaked. "It's not my fault you won't listen to me. Keep it up, young lady, and so help me I will see it that you stay in the bedroom all weekend." She closed her door without another word. I hate to be so hard on her, and it's not even her fault, really. This whole situation has had me on edge for the last couple of days. About an hour passed, and by this time, I decided that I should probably start thinking about dinner. I'd figured I'd get a pizza as a truce for Roxy. So I called it in and started looking for a movie that we could watch together. Midway through browsing, I heard giggling coming from Roxy's room. That's odd, I thought. What could possibly be so funny? Sneaking up as to not disturb whatever moment she was having. The first thing I noticed was the book in her hand. "That's my girl," I whispered under my breath. I didn't raise no iPad kid. However, pride quickly dissipated when I realized that her eyes were glued to the floor by her bed frame instead of the copy of James and the Giant Peach. Hey kiddo," I chirped. Her eyes shot up from the floor to meet mine. Hi Dad. What are you up to in here?" I asked her. "Oh, you know," she said wondrously. "Just reading." "Just reading, huh? I thought I just heard you laughing." "Oh yeah, there was a silly part in the book," she said, distracted. "Well, are you gonna tell me what it was?" I chuckled. "Your old man likes to laugh too, you know." I'll tell you later. I'm getting kinda sleepy. I just want to go to bed." "Go to bed? It's only 7 o'clock and I just ordered pizza. Come on, pumpkin. I thought we could watch a movie." She answered with a long, drawn-out yawn. "Okay, fine. Well, at least let me read some more of that Charlotte's Web tonight before you go to bed," I begged, gently. "I don't think I want a story tonight," she said, reserved and stern. "No story? But I always read you a story." "Fine. If you're that tired, I guess I'll let you have the night off. Sweet dreams, pumpkin." This finally drew a smile onto her face. "You too, Dad," she said warmly, before giving me a big, tight hug. That night, I ate pizza alone in the living room while I watched Cops Reloaded. I finally called it a night around 11 p.m. when my eyes began to flutter and sound began to morph into my dreams. Crashing out onto my bed, I was just about to fall asleep when the faint sound of scratches made its way into my subconscious. The scribbling, carving sound of pen to paper. I shot up and I rushed to the closet, swinging the door open and yanking the pull string so hard I thought I would break it. Lying on the floor, in plain view, there were 3 sticky notes, each one containing a single word scrawled so violently it left small tears in the paper. Do not yell. That was enough for me. All the sleep exited my body at once as I raced to my daughter's room, car keys in hand. My heart sank when I found an empty room and a window left half open. I screamed my daughter's name. I received no response. Weeks went by. No trace of Roxy had been found. I'm a broken man. My pride, my joy, one thing I swore to protect no matter what, it was taken from right under me. How could I let this happen? The only thing that stopped me is a few nights ago, I heard scribbling from my closet. Less violent this time, and more thoughtful, rhythmic strokes. I hurried over to the closet, and repeating the routine once more, I was greeted but with one note this time. One that simply read, in my daughter's exact handwriting, I miss you, Daddy. I was born and raised in South Dakota. Back when I was in high school, a group of us would research murders that occurred out in the county. We would then go to find out and find the scenes, and film the exploration at night. It was something to do while we got wasted on garbage, beer, and other teenage things. Eventually, we ran out of places to go. North Dakota equals few people, so fewer murders. And we got really good at finding abandoned rural farmsteads by driving dirt roads and looking for signs. Not normal signs. Not signs that tell you, there's an abandoned house over here. Signs like natural signs. Rut roads, deliberate tree groves, old mailbox posts, those were the common markers. We were out looking once when we spotted a tree grove that was out of place, which is a sure sign, and drove to the field and discovered an old, but not too old looking, house. It had padlocks on the outside doors that were knocked off pretty easily by us. We got rid of all of them and entered the kitchen. There were 6 of us, all with flashlights, and we lit up the kitchen/dining area fairly easily. The table was the initial thing you noticed, and it was strange because of how normal it looked. It was set for a meal, and not a bowl was out of place. Only thing was, we'd been in dozens of these houses, and plate settings were a first, especially untouched ones, unbroken ones. As we investigated the area around the fridge, it had a disgusting smell. There were remnants of a full stock. Cupboards were full of canned and dry foods. All of this was also a first. One guy found mail on the counter from early June 1978 and found another creepy TV guide in the living room with UFOs on the cover. All of the family photos were hanging up still. Mom, dad, bro, sis, all in their 1970s glory. Furniture was dusty, but in good condition. Closets were full. Everything was totally normal, which was super abnormal. As we dug around the house, we all started to realize that this house had not been moved out of. It had been straight up abandoned. Imagine locking the door to your house and never coming back. That's the state that this house was in. Complete, unplanned departure. We went upstairs and split into 3 pairs to check out 3 rooms. Ours was the closest, and obviously it was the younger boy's room. I can't describe what it looked like too well because almost right away from the hall, we heard the most terrifying scream I've ever had the misfortune of hearing. Shrill, raw, from the throat screams. We went running into the hallway, and we were all yelling questions at each other at the same time. After a few really long seconds, the 2 screamers caught their breath and said, You'll have to go in and see yourself. I went first. I walked down the hall and through the doorway, praying that I would look tough in front of my friends. I shouldn't have been concerned because the others were scared as I was. The room itself opened up to the left of the doorframe, and centered on the right side of the room was a queenish-sized bed, propped up on the pillows, with the blanket drawn to the waist, arms on top of the blanket, and worst of all, head turned slightly so it was looking straight at you, was a life-sized porcelain doll. Snow white skin, jet black hair, cold, dead eyes. Those dead eyes were lit up with our flashlights, like she was waiting for us. If the head had been turned, I could excuse it, but it was turned towards the door, ready for when we walked in, ready for 20 years. Hasty exits were made down the stairs and into the car. It was during the ride back that we started to get even more creeped out when we thought about it and realized, even though the house had been abandoned, someone had taken the time to set up that doll. Not packing food, not packing clothes, not packing family photos, not packing anything, not touching anything. Setting up that doll was one of the, if not the, last things done in this house. We researched their names, but we got nothing. No tragic car accident, no massacre, no extended family, just a weird time capsule in the middle of nowhere that seemed that nobody had touched for 20 plus years. We found out that the county eventually had taken possession of the land for non-payment of taxes, explaining the locks, but never tracked down any more information on what happened to them, or why they left that doll for us. I've posted about this before, but it fits this bill. I'm not a good storyteller, so bear with me. A couple of years back, my best friend and I went on a road trip to the States for a music festival. Met up with some friends, saw a lot of things and whatnot. One of our friends comes back home with us. He needed to get back home for school, and his buddies didn't want to head home yet, so we decided to drive straight home in shifts. Took 24 hours for the full drive. Anyway, my story starts while I'm driving, night shift, about 2 a.m. It is a beautifully clear night. No moon, no clouds, middle of the summer party type night. While noticing all of these conditions, I also noticed that we have followed the GPS onto a back road and driven into a huge valley. Open fields, not another car, house, or anything in sight. And it's important to note that we haven't seen anyone or anything relating to human presence for several hours. Upon entering this valley, we lose our signal. We have no satellite radio, no GPS, no signal. Cool beans. Doesn't really matter, as I know we will follow this road for a couple more hours, I guess. About 20 minutes after entering this valley, and after losing all of our connections, we come upon a bridge. And as we get closer, I see a car pulled out on the side of the road. Not uncommon. People sleep in pullouts when they can. What's uncommon about this car is all of the windows are tinted to be blacked out. With all of the light from the moon, we should be able to see at least partially inside, but it was completely black. Getting closer, we also realize that it has no license plate. No big deal. We assume that it is abandoned out here in the boonies. That is, until we pass this vehicle, and almost immediately, its lights flick on, and it pulls up behind us on the road. Now this is where it gets creepy. The vehicle starts tailgating us, in the middle of nowhere, and we can't see who's inside or anything. Again, we try to brush it off. Maybe he's lost, needs to follow someone, Out of the area? I don't know. Doesn't explain the windows being completely blacked out, or the lack of a license plate. Anyway, with this car following us, I start to get an uneasy feeling. Subtle at first, but growing stronger. Soon, I get an all-out get away from this vehicle ASAP feeling. It hits me like a truck. I find it important to note that I do not frighten easily. I do not panic, and I only have ever gotten this feeling in times when I know for a fact that my life is in danger. I push those feelings aside, as it seems the silliest response to a possibly explainable situation. That is, until I see something in the middle of the road. Almost on cue, this car backs off, as I and my companions, one of whom was asleep, try to make it out. What is in the middle of the road? Coming closer, we see what looks to be a body laying in the middle of the lanes. This is not a big road, and like I said, it was also a back road, still paved, but very small. At this moment, and at the sight of what appears to be a body in the road ahead, we start freaking out. In no way am I stopping for nobody in this desolate and isolated area. There are no other vehicles around other than the one following us, and I can see no housing or lights as far as the eye can see. No cell service, no satellite, nothing. I quickly tell the others there is no way I'm stopping, and I'm going around or I'm going through. By this time, we're almost on it. There's no room to go around. There's no shoulders on the road. There's deep ditches on every side. We're close enough to see now that it's a scarecrow, and I drive over top and onwards. This car, small enough to go around it, continues to follow. I speed up, it speeds up. I slow down, it slows down, until I floor it. After about 2 minutes of this, the car slows down, does a U-turn, and drives back where we came. Now my passenger turns to me and says, "I swear I saw spikes in that thing." Meaning the scarecrow had spikes to pop tires. Lucky for us, we were driving a huge truck. The wheel span was bigger than the scarecrow on the road, and we never even touched it. It was another half hour before we reached cell services and satellite picked back up. It wasn't until we reached home at 5 a.m. that we remembered during this time that there had been a couple people missing, reported in our province. Ones who were on vacation and driving home from the States who never made it home or were ever found. I and my passengers fully believe that we escaped some crazy Wolf Creek type of death for ourselves. Anyway, that's my story. 100% true. To answer the questions about police, yes, we did contact the police about it, and they ended up making a full police report. However, they were unable to pinpoint the exact location. There wasn't really anything they could do other than file the report. We definitely didn't want this to happen to anyone else, as it was creepy.